So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for the IU Ukraine Non-Residential Scholars Program Research Seminars. We're starting our second seminar this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. And it is my true pleasure to welcome Iryna Tukova, who is Associate Professor of Music Theory at the Ukrainian National Academy of Music in Kyiv. The talk title for Iryna today is Ukrainian Art Music at the Time of Russia's Full-Scale Invasion. So welcome, Pani Iryna. We're looking forward to hearing your talk, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Are you hearing me well?
Yes, thank you.
And now I'm sharing my screen with you. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, and our slide is moving, yeah? You have the slide is changing, yeah?
No, we're still seeing your
Still the same, or?
We're seeing slide number one.
Yeah.
Oh, now it moved. Now it moved.
In this variant, because some problems with PowerPoint. Yeah, thank you. And first of all, I would like to say many thanks to organizers of this amazing non-residential program. I'm very lucky to take part in it, and I'm very glad to meet here my Ukrainian colleagues and my colleagues from Indiana University. I think I will have many interesting information, and I have had many interesting information for this time. And I'm a representative of Ukraine art music community. My sphere of the research interest is Ukrainian contemporary art music, and now I'm studying composition which were created after the full-scale invasion beginning and reflecting the theme of the war in different ways. Sure, the theme of my research correlates with the problem art, music, and politics, but in realities of Ukraine art music scene, this problem is very controversial. I am naming some reasons of such my statement. First one is social. Art music in general and contemporary art music as its part is not impactful sphere in Ukrainian culture scene, if I compare it with literature or theater, for instance. Think my Ukrainian colleagues will not able to name many contemporary Ukrainian composers or performers' names. Art music is like a specific bubble which lives in its own laws and disconnected with reality. Not all but the most interesting and really actual projects are the result of private initiatives. Some changes in the state sector, which includes philharmonics, opera houses, state orchestras, music colleges, and academies, became after Russia's invasion beginning in 2014. But in general, situation before 24th of February remained the same as at 1990s. Second reason is colonial status of art music scene and education in general. Until 21st of February 2022, in Ukraine, music schools, colleges, and academies had used mainly Russian scholarship as a basis of studies. Therefore, musicologists and teachers conceptualized themselves as a part of the post-Soviet tradition. Our performers had been playing more works by Russian composers than Ukrainian. At the state stages prevailed Russian and European classical and romantic repertoire and song. I'm stressing that at the moment the situation is radically changed. Now art music professionals are very interested in Ukraine programs and new composition. And third reason is state cultural politics in art music sphere. Such politics was forming after the full-scale invasion beginning, but it's not work in all sectors on the one hand. On the other, our government doesn't understand the power of art music sector in general. To my mind, our authorities paid attention for art music first and probably last time at NATO summit in Madrid on 29th of June 2022. At the summit, Kyiv Symphony Orchestra presented the classic Ukrainian compositions. Those not all reasons, but most impactful in my opinion. As a result, before 21st of February 2022, in the art music community was strong conviction that music is outside of politics. Indeed, this assertion is rather general and there are some exceptions, but it captures an overall trend. And it is not only my conclusion. Let me provide some examples from the discussions taking place in the Ukrainian media to support this claim. In the 2019 article, Music Outside Politics, How Long Will Our Musicians Hide Their Use? Katerina Yatel stressed that, I'm quoting, music outside of politics is one of the most widespread ideas in the current Ukrainian infofield. Olga Kuzomska echoes this statement, I'm quoting. Often, especially among Ukrainian musicians, you can hear this memorable phrase, music is outside of the politics. It is difficult to say whether this is even possible. However, for the most part, musicians who adhere to such a politics refuse to not only bring up the political situation within the country, but also anything national. After the full-scale invasion beginning, the situation in Ukrainian art music community changed radically. For this claim deeper understanding, I am quoting James Garrett's conclusion about the correlation of art music and politics. Summarizing research on the subject, Garrett points to its three main aspects. I am quoting. The first vigorously segregates political music from music as an autonomous art, treating the former as a marginal subartistic phenomenon. The second similarly regards political music as antithetical to art, yet claims that autonomous art offers a deeper form of political engagement as well as better art. In contrast, the third position affirms the proposition that all music is political, rejecting the polarization of political and not political art as mass-guided or tendentious. In 2022, Ukrainian art music scene showed a sharp move from the first aspect defined by Garrett to the third one, from a strong position of music is outside of politics to an active engagement with the politics. So every concert or new composition began to be interpreted as a political action. I was observing the situation and asking myself, are all newly created works political statement? How can I typify those works? Below, I'm proposing my reflections and put your attention that I'm talking about compositions which were created during 2022 only. So, it would be false to claim that every work created by Ukrainian composers during 2022 is connected to the theme of war or reflected upon it. Undoubtedly, creative impetuses and process guiding individual Ukrainian composers are often unpredictable. Furthermore, many of them are currently living abroad Ukraine, working for all these different institutions, festivals, orchestras, and performers. But in any case, Ukrainian art music reflecting the war has been written and performed, with the composers interpreting the theme of war in different ways and with a broad range of musical tools. Connecting with the war theme works, I arrange into three categories. The first categories you can see in this first row. The first category includes the composition in which the authors express their wartime experience with comments on the works or with their titles. The Fisher's Reply to St. Anthony by Alexei Shmurak, Footprints on the Sun by Maxim Kolomyets, Still by Igor Zavgorodny, L'Argagimenta by Alexander Rodin, and Le Voyage au Bois de la Nuit by Alla Zahaykevich. In the works of the second category, second row, composer's reflection on the work experience results in a troubling soundscape, such as the sounds, the air raid sirens and explosions in Lacrimosa by Alexander Shchetinsky, Lacrimosa Bucha by Victoria Poleva, Eyes to Eyes by Evgen Petrichenko, Maria's City by Zoltan Almashy, Post by Sviatoslav Lunyov, and Komos 2022 by Oleg Bezborodko, among others. Now I'm making the pause and proposing the auditory experience. In the work Eyes to Eyes, the composer Evgen Petrichenko imitates a red siren sound. At the beginning, you will hear the theme of violin, and after it will be the imitation of a siren sound. I hope you can listen to well this fragment. It was the concert tour of the orchestra in Europe, and this performance was recorded in Holland. So, returning to my typology, I would like to stress that only the composition of the third category are based on or include the document facts of Russia's crimes I consider as direct political manifestation. The works in this category are Installation Gentle Word by Igor Zavgorodny and Multimedia Performance Lullaby for Mariupol by composers Ilya Razumeyko, Roman Grigoriev, and Opera Aperta Ensemble. Named above compositions are united not only with a general theme, but with their also strategies choosing a target audience. I observed that Ukrainian composers are considered several factors in order to carefully identify their potential listeners specifically. First, a geographical factor, whether a composition is directed toward an exclusively Ukrainian audience or a foreign audience, or has no such limitation. The second, a listener's artistic preference factor. In basic terms, whether communicative properties of a composition are directed toward an art music audience or a broad public. The third, a concept and means factor, a composer's expressive apparatus to convey a message or of a work. Compositions belonging to the first and second categories have no geographical limits and are oriented towards traditional art music audience, as reflected by the location of their premieres as well as their performing bodies. In many cases, philharmonic concerts in Ukraine, works by Shchetinsky, Petrichenko, Poleva, or special projects of European music ensembles, such as the Latin's Ensemble's premiere performance of composition by Shmurak and Kolomins. The performances of Lullaby for Mariupol, representing the third category, have taken place in different European countries, targeting a larger audience. The work premiered in Vienna and Rotterdam in May 2022, followed by performances in Linz in September, in Milano in October, and in Helsinki in December. The installation Gently Word by Zavgorodny was published in his YouTube channel, undoubtedly directed toward a global audience. I observe stark differences between the communicative goals of the works belonging to the first, second, and third categories, respectively, conditioned by their conceptual frameworks. On one hand, a composer's wartime reflection may be interpreted in different ways by listeners within and outside of the country at war. On the other hand, a political manifestation expressed in music would be probably aimed mainly at the foreign audience. In other words, political statements such as "we exist, we are here," and "this is the history of our fight" are very important to the Ukrainian audience, and via music those messages have been disseminated to the outside world. It is important to stress that the works of the third category include disturbing, authentic images and/or sounds of the ongoing war, while those latter compositions have a big impact on a listener. Not many Ukrainians who have experienced the horrors of the war firsthand want to relive them. Perhaps this is the reason why, for example, Lullaby for Mariupol has been performed abroad only. John Street's discussion a correlation between music and politics, suggesting that, I'm quoting, "if musical pleasure and choice are purely private matters of personal consequence, they are not political. It is only when musical pleasure or musical displeasure spills over into the public realm and into the exercise of power within it that it becomes political. It is where music inspires forms of collective thought and action that it becomes part of politics. It is where music forms a site of public deliberation rather than private reflection that we talk of music as political." To my mind, Gentle Word and Lullaby for Mariupol spill displeasure into the public realm and become a site of public deliberation. Those reasons enable me to say about those compositions as political manifestations. I would like to show you the fragments of the works and discuss some technical moments which were used by composer to influences on audience. But first of all, I would like to apologize to my Ukrainian colleagues. The compositions are rarely directed toward an audience abroad Ukraine and very effective. It is very emotionally difficult material to perception and research. So, Gently World, music, performance, lyrics, Igor Zavgorodny, video, Anna Pridatka, audio, edition, mix and mastering, Dmitry Saratsky. The installation was created in Kyiv at the beginning of the full-scale invasion and was published in composer's YouTube channel 4th of April 2022. We all remember that early spring was time of Russian occupation, Kiev suburb strategy of Bucha, Irpin, and other cities. The work was the composer's direct reaction to the full-scale invasion beginning. Therefore, Zavgorodny and his collaborators choose the most effective and powerful tools. Video includes fragments of invasion's first month's documental chronic. Lyric is written in English and understandable all over the world. Zavgorodny creates a very simple melody with each repeat like a verse in a song. But by using timbres, harmony, and methods of sound producing, he creates effect of stylistic modulation from late Baroque music to rock music. And I propose that we will see this composition.
I am gentle world isn't your world. How fragile the values are. Did not this danger call you? The highest one is the flame to run you.
At the moment, Gentle World has not so many numbers of you in YouTube. It is near 6,000. Under the composition, there are many comments like this headbreaking. 2 weeks ago, I met Igor, the composer, and told him about my presentation, and he said, this work is not actual now. To me, it is a very important comment because it shows special trait of politics music. It is created to a very special moment and very quickly became not actual. According to Courtney Brown, 2008, it is a representative political music. Multimedia performance Lullaby for Mariupol by composers Ilya Razumeyko, Roman Grigoriev, and opera Aperta Ensemble is mentioned about, was created in spring of 2022 for a non-Ukraine audience in order to memorize the tragedy of Mariupol, which had taken place at the time of the work's creation and premiere. As Roman Grigoriev said, the Lullaby for Mariupol function is not only about art. Mariupol has a cultural and diplomatic mission, at least, and at most, it proves that we exist. In Lullaby for Mariupol, Grigoriev and Razumeyko use different tools giving emotional influence to an audience. Among them, there is a dramatic footage by Dmytro Tintyuk of the city under attack, and at the climatic point of the work, a video taken by a drone of completely destroyed Mariupol. Improvisation is the main compositional mean. The performance combines improvisation on different instruments and Ukrainian folk instruments such as bandura and cymbali with vocal improvisation in the folk style. Composers use extreme ranges of sounds and noises to achieve dramatic effects, and authentic folk material is used in the form of Ukrainian lullabies. The latter is especially significant as it reflects a general trend in the current Ukrainian cultural practices. Lullabies are heard during different kinds of music events and newly created music and at political actions. Besides Lullaby for Mariupol, there is an installation titled Lullabies for the Land by Yuval Avital that combines lullabies from different Ukrainian regions sung in the vernacular manner. Another example is Lullaby by Daria Koltsova, a musical ritual in memoriam of all Ukrainian children killed in the war. Furthermore, Maria's City by Almashe and Steve by Zahorodny intimate lullabies idiomatically. Such a prominence of lullaby in the contemporary Ukrainian music scene is not surprising. Semantically, a lullaby rejects the war sign that two concepts are incompatible with one another. Moreover, idiomatically, lullabies are truly bodiless, global phenomena. In Lullaby for Mariupol, this strategic compositional device reinforces the effectiveness of Grigoriev and Razumeyko's stylistic and structural choices. Razumeyko describes the role of their creative collaboration with Grigoriev in this way. In the beginning, we created a minimalistic instrumental piece, and then we expanded it to a multimedia performance. In this work, our role as composers is limited to the general consideration of form and other structural means, because it is not a classical Western European composition with a precise score, but rather a mediative phoneral ritual that combines traditional vocals, microtonal improvisation of the quartet, and the video art. The fragment of the performance which I will show is not in good quality, but for me it is very important because because the record was made in Vienna in May 2022. It was the first presentation of the performance. Overall, a combination of improvisation heard on the loudspeakers, folk singing, and a video lure creates a powerful and effective event encapsulating human life under bombing and shelling. And so the most important element of well-planned political manifestation is its result. In this case, it is the listener's reception of the work. The following are excerpts from reflections of the performers in which they describe the reaction of the audience during the performance. Roman Grigoriev, composer. We didn't give any chance to the public to remain indifferent. At the culmination, we showed a video where a drone flies over the destroyed Mariupol, displaying suffering and death. There was only one voice, and we all gradually joined in as a kind of a metronome, like a clock. It was the voice of Mariupol surrounded by explosions. It was illustrative but very strong. After the performance, we were approached by musicians and festival directors with tears in their eyes. Marichka Stribulova, vocals. In my experience, the performance in Rotterdam was the most impactful. The whole work ends with the lullaby that we sing, and there is one chord that is held for half a phrase. Then we finished the performance. For a very long time, like 5 or 7 minutes, there was just silence in the hall. Loud, mindful silence. There was no applause. No one moved. It was both a very powerful but also a sad, difficult and touching experience. This is the only possible reaction to this performance, I think. So Gentle Waltz and Lullaby for Mariupol, despite their gender differences, have many common features which let me put them in common category. First of all, those compositions are representative political music. Both have a concrete war event as an impulse for the creation. Second, both compositions have art and pragmatic functions, conveying the truth about the war via emotions and art impressions. The compositions are directed toward a foreign audience. Communicative properties of the composition are directed toward a broader public. Both compositions are multimedia. Video became a document and music became an emotional commentator of a tragedy. In general, the newly created works demonstrate a very specific and rather unexpected approach of Ukrainian composers to the theme of war. They neither promote militarism and violence nor call for the destruction of the enemy. Mostly, in different ways, those works offer personal reflections on the tragic events, lyrical memories, and empathy for compatriots. Perhaps most compositions mentioned in this paper are not candidates for the rank of a masterpiece. Probably they will have a short performative life, but all of them are formulating the history of Ukrainian culture at this very moment, the time of the war. Thank you for your attention, and I open for your questions and reflections.
Thank you so much, Iryna, for a very moving presentation with lots of insight. The floor is open for questions and comments from colleagues. Please raise your hand, or you can put your comments or questions in the chat, and we will take them in the order they arrive. Yes, Iryna Yahodzinska, please.
Here, switch up the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. First of all, thanks for this amazing presentation. It's really moving and touching, and it's really hard to pull pieces together to express myself now. But okay, so did I get it right that Iryna, you mean that the contemporary and the current post-colonial narrative about Ukrainian music culture should start with the admitting of the fact that Ukrainian music used to have colonial status for ages, probably? Would it be the proper and the appropriate start for such a narrative? And secondly, did you ever happen to probably to distinguish or to just to detect the differences between situation in Ukrainian art music in after 2018 and 2024? I mean, did it reflect that much and that broad on Donbass war as it does it like for it's been doing for this period? Yeah. Thanks.
About colonial status, it is for me this the theme of some research, and for me I mean this theme only that understand why their problem music and politics and the music as political manifestation is very first of all, and at the first months was very strange for art, music, and academic community, because the specific in general music education in Ukraine, and it formed under the power of, first of all, Russia Empire, and I say about professional education, and after that, after the power, under the power of Soviet Union. And for me it is very difficult, and it was a very gradual process to to go out from these Soviet powers, Soviet narratives, and so on, so on, so on. But this is process, as for me, we only at the beginning of this process in our, for example, educational and musicological as science fair. Second part about what changing was in art music after the 2014, as for me, in correlation this music and politics, I don't know many such political actions. Now I can remember only two such compositions. First of all, this is opera by Alla Zagievich, this libretto Жадана Вишиваний is King of Ukraine, which was premiered on the 1st of October 2021 in Kharkov Opera House, and other this such composition by Yevhen Petrichenko Under the Black Sun, and he used material from the East Ukraine, from the poetry of poets who lived, for example, in Avdiivka. I think all you know, this is Shobak near Donetsk, and so on. As for me, it was probably most two such bright political actions. Other compositions were like reflections, yes, such reflection, for example, the problems of Holodomor, problems, other historical tragedy events in our history, such compositions a lot, but such political actions, as for me, it's not so many.
Thank you so much.
Okay, other questions, comments for our speaker? Angela, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Noriko, you were first. Noriko, please, and then Angela.
Hello, Iryna, thank you very much for that very interesting talk. So I have a couple of thoughts, and I was interested in some of your comments on art, music, and politics, and how art is often, classical music is often thought of as being an autonomous art divorced from politics. And it reminded me of some of the conflicts that Valentin Silvestrov seemed to be having when he was doing his uploads onto SoundCloud during the Euromaidan period of 2014 to 2015, where he seemed to be kind of struggling with this sort of notion. And so I was wondering if you might talk a little bit more about how pervasive that view of classical music as autonomous art, as opposed to art is always political, is in Ukraine, and how that thinking might have changed between pre-Euromaidan and now.
Yes, such changes, yes, and you said Euromaidan, and I memorize that we have a very interesting composition by Valentin Silvestrov, probably the most important and the most famous Ukrainian contemporary Ukrainian composers, and he wrote a cycle Euromaidan 2014 for some choirs. This is big cycles, but now I except this composition, I can't remember the composition that was dedicated, for example, Euromaidan and so on. We had many actions in memory of Euromaidan and so on, but mostly of those actions used classical music, for example, Mozart's Requiem, or used folklore material, or used, for example, pop or rock compositions. And for me, I understand that music and politics, it is more about pop music, jazz music, and so on, not about art music. And especially for me, it is interesting, these two examples, because they not useful, not traditional for art music, and only these two examples I can consider as political manifestations. Thank you, Noriko. I am very glad to see you and to meet you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Noriko. Angela, you had a question or a comment. I think you're muted.
Yes, sorry. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and for the opportunity to ask a question. I have a very naive question, since I'm not an expert in this area. But in the compositions that you've demonstrated, video has a very important role. It's a very powerful video. So is it now considered to be part of the musical composition, this video aspect?
Yes, this is a very powerful aspect of music composition, and their composers use the special genres. This first genre, this is installation, and a second, as composers composers name this genre, this multimedia performance. It includes this vocal, this text row, this video row, because video component is, for me, it's the probably the most powerful. Without such video components, those compositions will not work, as for me. Yeah, and it's really, and the correlation between video and between sound. And first of all, it was video, and after that, the composer made sound after near this video.
Okay, so the video is actually primary.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more question. So do you consider any musical compositions without video, without words, and can you clearly regard them as a political message?
It is, thank you. It is very difficult questions, and I'm thinking about this, because for me, we can divide as I tried to show in my presentation, that not all composition we can consider as a political. I try to name it political manifestations, as political. Other compositions, and there are many such compositions. This is the first of all reflections about the events, about the tragedy, about experience every of composers this time of first of all. And second, probably, if such compositions are performed abroad Ukraine, there are many different concerts, many tours of Ukrainian orchestras, ensembles, and so on in Europe, in USA, and other countries. I think we can consider this like cultural diplomacy, because in such a way we include our culture in their global cultural process, in global art music cultural process. The colleagues who not know many about Ukrainian music, they and audience and academic colleagues began to know about Ukrainian culture, about Ukrainian contemporary music, and such a way we do presentation Ukraine culture abroad Ukraine, and in such a way we tell about Ukraine all over the world. This is one way, and it is, as for me, a very interesting process, because we can do such cultural diplomacy in two ways. First way is contemporary art music, and second way, this is our very beautiful music of Ukraine Baroque. This is like Partesny concert. This is a very special phenomena from Ukraine, and it is very important for me to stress that Russian professional music art began from our Partesny concert. This is many-part composition, and this many-part composition was by Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich, took from Ukraine to Russia, and it was the point then Russian art music began, professional art music began. And for example, about Partesny concert, in Europe, not many persons and specialists in early music don't know about our such heritage. And for example, in September, our ensemble Partes, this which work this collaboration, Open Opera Ukraine, they presented in a very important European festival, Utrecht Early Music Festival. This is the first time from very long story of this festival, the Ukraine performers took part in this festival, and they presented Ukrainian music and about our such traditional music. And it is very important that such music, like European audience can understand this music, and after such auditorial experience, Europeans understand that our culture, Ukrainian culture, is correlate this European culture. And probably this is the second way of such culture diplomatic that we can do this art music.
Thank you for your explanation. So in this case, the political message is subtle, right?
Yeah.
If we promote this our culture in this way. Okay, thank you.
That's so fascinating, Iryna. I have a request and also a question. I was wondering, either here in the chat or in our Telegram channel, would you be so kind as to put some of the links that you shared with us today, if they're available online? I think we would love to share them in this community and in our broader networks. So thank you for sharing those really powerful pieces of music. It's interesting that Serhiy from Mariupol says that he hasn't seen any mention of the lullaby from Mariupol in his communities and public. So something really wonderful that you're sharing with us.
Yeah, yes, without problem. And I showed to you this fragment from a performance in Vienna, but they had, and in YouTube, the beautiful recording from I don't remember, from in December, they composers and ensemble presented Lullaby from Mariupol, and their record is perfect, and I will send in chat this perfect record.
Okay.
Because it is because there are some differences between the first variant and variant in December, and then I did analyzing this composition. I did it for first variant.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you. And then my question was the following. I was quite struck actually when you mentioned that the composer of Gentle World believes that project is no longer relevant, because from where I sit here in the United States, and with some of the unfortunate discussions in our big politics that have been happening, that composition seems extremely relevant. So could you talk a little bit more about this kind of discourse of relevance or irrelevance, and how maybe it changes through time and place?
Probably we think about relevant or irrelevant in our point of view from Ukraine. From Ukraine, for us, this every day, this like months probably. And for us, this is so very, very long ago, the biggest historical period. And for Igor, I understood him. For him, this is last life. But probably, and we can't understand the relevant or irrelevant this composition to other countries and to other persons, and really that is very difficult for me to understand the elevation or elevations of this composition. Yes, it's really very, because I'm in Ukraine, and for us probably in time in different directions go.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, is there a newer composition, a more recent one that you would say for a Ukrainian kind of listenership or audience is now like cutting edge or very, very poignant?
I can't now to answer you for this question, because I don't know. I don't know. I will think probably about it. No, I can't answer for this for your questions.
No problem. No problem. Other comments, questions for Iryna? Okay, well, I guess we will thank you again, Iryna, for just a very, very powerful presentation. You've introduced us all to some wonderful art music here that we will take with us as we go about our daily tasks. And just want to thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you, Serhiy, for your talk as well. Also very enlightening, inspired lots of interest and curiosity amongst our community. For those of you who are taking part in the first annual Dmytro Shtohrin Ukrainian Studies Conference through the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, either as presenters or as audience members and participants, we wish you the best. We hope that that conference goes very well and is a meaningful experience for all involved. And just want to thank you all for being part of the IU Ukraine Non-Residential Scholars program. We will be in touch very soon. We are planning our publication workshop, trying to get a date and time set for that, and we'll be in touch about that and any other events. So good to see you all. And yes, Angela, you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I want just to, well, to make it known that I still don't have access